Oh, think of like the influencer movie, the show we just watched. Oh, there we go. Oh, I wasn't looking at myself. Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to Thirsty Thursday. I'm Jake Erney. This is
Taylor, she, her, hers.
And we are here to want to celebrate sex workers and the online sex life in general. Really, with me, what I want to do with this podcast is that we want to express these new perspectives and get more than our voices on a platform to finally vocalize just these interesting cracks that we get into in our queer lives of us like coming into our own identities and being able to give a voice to those instances because they're important to us and they should be related to against all types of different lives.
Period. I really want this podcast to help me to explore my own sexuality, my own feelings of my own body autonomy, my own boundaries when it comes to sex, when it comes to sex work, and when it comes to sexuality and expressing that sexuality. I also want to learn more about, just like Jake said, the other perspectives of sex work, and including those other perspectives and getting to hear from them as well. And also just getting to talk with my friend about sex. Like, who wouldn't want to do that? So
yeah, and
I'm
sex is such sex is like such an interesting platform too, because we all have been on the internet, like in the internet world and interwebs, and we see what comes up. And I feel like if you have been on the internet and you've gone through the routes, you've come across porn in some fashion.
Yeah, everybody has.
Right? So I think we all dive into our own where we feel sexy on the internet, and I feel like, that's a common thing, right?
Yeah. But it always ends up, or typically ends up being, number one, fake. These are not real instances of how real sex or how sex usually goes. And so it has these very strange connotations and stereotypes that come with porn, and it makes these unrealistic expectations about realistic porn, and especially when it comes, or realistic, sexual, loving, casual, whatever encounters that you do have sexually, and especially the queer perspective. Like, you really only get a certain look at what gay sex, queer sex really can be, or what it's supposed to be, or what it is. Which is not, like you said, the vastness of what queer sex actually is.
No, and it gets into it, it gives a lot of stigma to what gay sex is supposed to be for a lot of people. And it's like, even in the straight world, you have commercialized porn.
Right.
It's all produced, it's all part of a scene. And we try to recreate that in reality when it's really like, it's not real.
Right.
And then people try to learn from sex on how to treat their own body. And everybody's body reacts different ways, and they expect that can't meet that kind of standard, then I'm either not good at it or it's just not for me.
Right.
And it creates a bunch of dissonance within our own identity as queer people.
Period. And talking about dissonance as queer people, we want to talk about chat rooms today. Specifically texting apps that are used in this age of not only Miss Pandemic, Miss Roan, but just even before then, dating back as early as to when the internet started, sex was being sold on the internet, or being trafficked through the internet, or being viewed via the internet.
Working through the internet.
Period. And then today, things continue to steadily get quicker, faster, more innovative when it comes to sex and the internet. Not just the work that comes with it, but the innovations in terms of like toys and sex toys that are being used that are like so similar to actual human bodies that people can buy and use, to the use of these texting apps or these dating apps like OnlyFans or Chat Roulette or Omegle or Grindr or even Tinder.
Yeah.
And even some more like mainstream, just like Facebook, Twitter sort of apps, that anything that really has the capability of allowing chat communication. And actually the definition of a chat room is literally that it's primarily used for any form of synchronous conferencing, which means that you're all there at the same time, you're in sync, you're talking to one another. It doesn't have to be like this, on a camera. If me and Jake were texting one another, and it was back and forth, he wasn't going to wait 40 minutes to text me back or whatever. It would be synchronous communication. We would be talking to each other back and forth
Real
as if
time,
we were there.
IRL, yeah.
Exactly. And it allows you to do a lot of things, right? It allows you to chat online with both people you know, because I can know Jake and say, hey girl, meet me here. But it also allows you to chat with strangers, with people you've never met before, or maybe you think you know, from small interactions on the internet, or from them liking your pictures, or from maybe y'all running in the same sort of internet circle. And so it kind of is the first step in terms of initiating something that me and Jake like to talk about, are like the two sort of reasonings that you go into internet sex, is because you're either curious and you're looking for, you're just interested in maybe how to do a position, or how sex even works, or what is this used for, or what is sex work, you know, you're just kind of inquiring about it. Or if you're actually indulging and practicing and needing to go on the internet for those sorts of reasons. So if you are a sex worker, the best place, or one of the best places to find work right now, especially since we can't be in large areas, or in areas like that sex work goes on, like strip clubs and all this other sort of stuff, is to go to the internet. And it's to text, it's to see one another digitally. And I don't know if you remember To Catch a Predator in like the early 2000s. Yes. And they would be on these specific chat rooms where predators would be known to prey on, 12, 13, and 14-year-old girls. So that is one of the negative things that can come from a chat room. Just like being on the internet in general, you can't really trust who's behind the screen.
Profiles are created for a reason. Yeah,
period.
Profiles are created to fulfill a fantasy. I mean, some people are straight up, like, they'll say they're 12 and 13, but I know for a lot of people, and I especially think in the queer community, people create, at much younger age, create older profiles just to kind of look at that line blurred to themselves to fulfill their fantasy.
Yeah.
But it's wild because these chat rooms, they do create a space for us to do that, and it's all about creating the fantasy for the individual. But it has but you can find these against different platforms themselves. So you have the more intimate ones where it's more, you're almost like have a community of your own people, and you can really get a strong following and get some bougie dollars off of these apps.
Literally. It gives sex workers a lot of opportunity, just like you said, to find work on your own, to initiate your own work, to go, instead of having to go through a pimp or go through a John, or have somebody manage your money, or somebody manage your clients. You can do all that online. And then not only that, but you can work with your clients or talk with them without actually having to see them in person. So you're eliminating a lot of the danger that usually comes from in-person sex work. Obviously, you have to be there in person to give the service. But if you're doing phone sex or video sex, or just calling people, or just texting, or just sending photos, you are at a lower risk, most definitely, than if you were to pull up on somebody and go to their house.
I think the power distances are completely changed. The lines of leadership, the lines of power of who's in the dominant position, it gives so much power to the performer. Right. And I think then they're able to actually, look at themselves as less as what society has tagged them as, and have been able to show power that, they're buying it online, and and then it's right there. And I think that gives a lot of, it speaks to what the position is. With the society, what someone's to call it.
Period. And something else that comes from these texting apps, something that I do often with Tinder, is it allows you a chance to basically stalk this person and see whether or not these are the people that you want to go out with. And especially if you're a sex worker or someone that is trying to basically case out whether or not this is a lead or an opportunity for you, this is a great time to ask all of the questions that you need to ask. Like, I don't know if you do this, but definitely on Tinder, I usually enjoy when they'll link their Instagram or they'll link their Spotify, because that to me is like a line of credibility. Not necessarily that your Instagram is credible. Like, I'm going to go see whether or not you have followers and like there's engagement or whatever. But that is just one line of like way of you proving to me that you are a real person and not like a catfish, as some would say, or someone who.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah. The more credibility, the more lines that they can draw for us just right away. It gives credibility. I mean, are there people that go to like the full extent of creating fake accounts across the board to do this? Yeah, but girl, like that's some cherry pie kind of shit. Like,
period. Literally, I remember being a young gay, like you say, on chat roulette and deliberately lying about my age because it was a little bit of both. Like I definitely was interested in like what is going on here? Like what are these things that these people are doing? What is it that my friends keep talking about? Like
Yeah.
don't go on there or go on there and see. And it was also something that like I felt like, especially as a young person trying to be sexual, I was like, this is better than me having sex with somebody. Like at least if there's this random penis online being jacked off, I can just like be in my room and have my camera off and just like at least look at it. Like I don't have to do anything to myself or really interact with what's going on, but I can at least like you said, or like we say, you can at least look at it and say that the interest is there. But of course,
Yeah.
that leaves all those vulnerable people because you're lying, you know, saying that your age is one thing, and people are going to take you for your word. They're just trying to manipulate you.
Yeah.
They will most definitely use that against you, gaslight you, or try to use your pictures, your likeness, and things against you. And especially as a sex worker, they'll just basically take the pictures that they take of you, or maybe videotape you, screen record when you're not looking. There's been a lot of like
Yeah.
OnlyFans hacking going on right now, like crazy
But
stuff.
naturally, girl. I mean, porn is copied the second it's posted. Like,
Hmm.
it's wild. I never thought that like people would be able to actually keep their own if they're gonna go so public that they're, oh, behind this door there is pictures of me having sex.
Right.
Like, of course it's gonna get leaked, honey.
Yeah. Yeah. It's crazy how, especially how people feel like sex workers do not have ownership of their content or the things that they make. Like it's so clear for a YouTube video, if you're playing a song that's not yours, it's going to get flagged, correct? But if you
Yeah.
have you know, someone else's sex work on your page or being talked about or being discussed, you don't have to reference them. You don't have to say that this is who it was. You don't have to give any money to that. And a lot of sex workers don't get paid a lot of money at all to be in these videos anyway. They're not making stacks unless you have an enormous following, just like you said, and you're able to like do that to yourself. There are definitely, I don't know if you've seen the stories of the OnlyFans people or the people who have really gotten successful in OnlyFans, and they're buying houses and cars and all this other kind of stuff from actually being able to sustain themselves on OnlyFans, because if you've got the goods, you know, people are going to want it. People are going to pay for it, period.
That's true. Yeah, yeah. And then there's also a lot of people that are already like trying to make a bridge between their already existing porn like career, and they
Yeah.
do OnlyFans to kind of bring that other demographic into the group to kind of introduce both, which
Yeah.
is smart business wise for like a for
Yeah.
a porn career. But like it definitely, yeah, it definitely like their material gets spread, the incident's posted, and they don't get any credibility. Like the first thing you always see in the comments is, "Oh, who's that top?"
Right.
It's like they're just like they're trying to identify which one, but you can never find in the actual video because it's just so like spread.
Exactly. And I feel like a lot of these texting apps or a lot of these chat rooms, places that people kind of commune or kind of have a niche sort of kink maybe,
Mhm.
or sort of fetish that they're specifically looking for, especially in the queer community, it becomes these spaces that then just re-perpetuate the things that we as like queer people are fighting for,
Yeah,
in terms of like rights and equality and what we want and who needs to speak and who should be heard and all of these other sorts of things, because then we get into these sort of separatist kind of thinking because we, like you said, get into these tops and bottoms and categories as to what kind of sex or where the sex can happen or what kind of things are going on, especially
yeah,
within, you know, Tinder and especially Grinder too. Grinder literally lets you pick the categories of what you identify as, and a lot of people will put like what they don't want, like no black people, no fats, no femmes, like mask for mask is something that is just so annoying. You know what I mean?
yeah.
So it allows for some of the most toxic sort of shit to pop up on there, even though you're just trying to look for maybe someone to just even have sex with, or maybe have a conversation, or maybe just try shit out. It's like, oh my gosh, now I'm on here and I'm marginalized. What the fuck? Like, what's going on?
Oh, real quick.
Real
Yeah,
quick.
you can go on somewhere. You can just say a couple, and we have broken it down to like you can say 3 words about yourself or describe yourself in 3 words, and they know exactly who you are and if they want to fuck you or
Yeah.
not. And and it's usually like and you know which words to pick and not to pick because you know the
Right.
way everything's kind of set up. So
Yeah.
we have to weirdly have to look at ourselves as if we're selling ourselves just to kind of have a conversation with people because we have to appeal to a certain standard.
Yeah, and then you talking about like selling yourself, that is another thing that like having to write out or having to talk to people on these chat rooms, what they kind of help to do, because a platform that I like, y'all need to pay me though. It's a website that is used for sugar babying, and something that I love about it is that because I have to type and write to these men like often, and it's usually men. Actually, it's only men. It's only older, white, rich men. And when I'm writing to them,
There's another one for sugar mamas, but that one's definitely for men.
yeah. And when I get on there, you have to be very transparent about what it is that you will and won't do. Because a lot of people say some crazy shit like, I want, water sports, which is basically they want piss play. And it's like, I that's not what I do. I'm a sugar baby. Look, I'm here for a bunch of other experiences, but that's not what I do. That's literally not at all what I'm trying to do. And I guess I wasn't explicit enough in what it is that I do and don't do. So you kind of start to build this menu or sort of this idea of what it is that you will, where your boundaries are, what you won't do, what you will accept, what you don't accept. And even from typing, like you can see like, this dude ain't got no money. Like, I'm not going to accept it. The fuck? Like, I don't want this.
Yeah, for me, writing was definitely a way that I was able to get into what I actually like myself.
Mm-hmm.
I like to communicate through writing a lot of the time. That's the way I'm able to easily express myself. Right. So I would make men fall in love with me through text to get my rocks off.
Yes.
Yeah, and I was whoever the fuck they needed me to be for that to happen.
Period. I most definitely was texting for months. Like, how do y'all be on these apps for months? Like, we're really bored. You really have to be bored.
That's the power of like just pure young horniness.
Yeah, most definitely. Hormones are raging.
Yeah.
And they're making you do some stupid shit, like be on an app all fucking day.
That's like the gay equivalent of like hulking out.
Yes. What the fuck? You'll be on there texting. But the other thing about these chat rooms is like, it's really boring and sometimes depressing to be in them. Like sometimes I get depressed being on Tinder because it's just like, oh my gosh, like the conversations are not rarely ever, interesting unless you fall upon, a different sort of person. It's half of the time degrading, having people feel entitled to like your time and what they want to hear from you and like what's going on in your life. And I'm like, why the fuck do I keep doing this? Why are these the spaces to find people? That's just always what I say is like, I feel like every time a new dating app or like chat room or whatever comes out, I kind of just have higher expectations that this is going to be where I can feel safe and also talk to people and also find people who are trying to do the same things I'm doing. But it continuously doesn't feel like that. It always feels unsafe, most definitely.
I can see what you mean. I remember when I was on the apps and I was going through them, like it just became like a very monotonous kind of process. But for me, I sunk to the level of just like almost looking at it as like TV. Mm-hmm. So if something just wasn't interesting, I just blocked, like they're just gone.
Yeah.
And then I always had more to swipe from.
Exactly.
So I just went with lower expectations. But I think the higher expectation is where the expectation is supposed to be.
Yeah.
It should be a place like you're imagining. It's just, I think the common culture of how we've been dating through applications has completely shifted. Mm-hmm. But it's also different for different like sex groups. Like Tinder for gays, it is another like hookup kind of site, but I think I've always talked to gays in a sense that it was kind of for more serious relationship business.
Yeah, a lot of people will categorize like Hinge is for this and Tinder's just for hookups and whatever. Yeah. But I don't know. Like, I feel like they all can be used for whatever you want. I literally use Tinder to find friendships. The thing I don't like about Tinder is the gender. Like, it's so hard to just have women and men, especially when that's not the full scale of how many genders there are. So there's usually like a lot of caveats in Tinder, especially for trans people, like kind of trying to explain like what's going on, or I use they them pronouns. There's no, so you get kind of like mixed up in the algorithm. which I hate about Hinge and Tinder. Like I hate the algorithm of those things and who they cycle into your like little
Very
card.
binary, yeah.
Yeah, it's really weird who's directed towards you and who's sent towards you. It's supposed to be like random, but of course nothing's random. And then other sites, like I kind of find just Twitter and Instagram like living a life and people like hitting you up in your DMs. Once again, like I have a whole etiquette in my head for DMs,
Yeah.
for sliding, because to make it clear, like if you're trying to flirt with somebody, please stop complimenting their shirt. Stop telling them that their hair is cute, and get to the nitty gritty. We know this. We know that our hair is cute. We know that the hair. We know what's going on. Like
Questions are always better than compliments.
period. So going through this kind of like dating even cycle as a queer person and then also as a sex worker, it's both like nobody knows. It kind of eliminates, because you're so anonymous, it eliminates the je ne sais quoi, the finesse, the, I wouldn't say like courting, but like some sort of, cat and mouse, some sort of like anything that's just experience. But it's so routine, so robotic for me in my experience. I have found fruitful sugar baby, sugar daddy, sex work, pole opportunities. But I also think that was me doing those opportunities. I don't think these apps are really helping anything that's not already happening. It just gives it a different platform to make those things happen, if that makes sense.
Yeah. No, but even that area of what is being done online is completely taking a new route too. You get into all these different ways that people are putting themselves through to gain an audience and to gain these profiles.
Yeah.
Because they have become like a social currency.
Yeah.
And they can go across, and there's people have been able to transform their porn careers into different types of industry career moves and create an entire lifestyle for themselves, an entire life. And that's the beautiful part of it. I think it's but that normalizing that and making like that a move that people can aspire to actually have without it being rude or creepy or like wrong is the feeling I want to get out.
Yeah, chat rooms are kind of like, I hate this word gateway drug, but it kind of really is a gateway. It's an opportunity, it's a springboard. You can take from that opportunity the people that you may meet, and especially being safe. You can take the opportunities from there and do with them from what you wish. I got into pole dancing because I was messaging this dude, and he was a bouncer at this club. I was like 14, and I was lying. And I basically went up there and I was like, yeah, I can dance, I can do whatever. I shook my ass and I got hired, and I like started working there. And it happened because it was over a message. I never did anything with that man or anybody that I ever worked with. It never turned into a sex work job, but it ended up, into me getting into go-go dancing and me getting into nightlife. So you can really find a lot in those chat rooms, but you do just need to stay safe. And just remember that like not everybody is who they say they are.
But that's the key right there. I've been in many a chat room where you just start going with someone talking to somebody, they're sending you all these pictures. All of a sudden it's just like, you get like, there's always like a first sense. Like, especially when you don't have those lines of credibility we were talking about earlier, you can sense something fishy, no pun intended. And after this break, we're gonna come back and we're gonna talk about these people who say there's something, but they're really not.
Period. Neve is gonna be calling. Neve is hopping the call. We'll see y'all in a bit.
Be right back. Action. Ooh. Hey everybody, welcome back. So we left off with the fishy example. Something was smelling in the room.
Period. Catfish.
Catfish, honey. Crispy and off the fryer, honey. This is something I think everybody's either experienced from one of the perspectives or easily from the both. And we all have our reasonings for going behind the camera and doing different things. But I've definitely been in both perspectives. Once in 7th grade, my best friend and I, we created a female persona on Facebook to talk to her boyfriend to get the tea.
I'm screaming. Messy.
I also, at the same time, created a male profile and would talk to other people and see if I can get other guys in the community to kind of like step out if I didn't know they were gay or not.
I'm screaming!
that goes down a whole other rabbit hole of like how manipulation is taught to us at a young age, but
Right.
it happens. But catfish is definitely a part of that, and it has this side of us that builds confidence. It is able to allow us to feel comfortable
Yeah.
going in with a mask and being able to express ourselves how we want to verbalize, but our real mouths really can't because
Yeah.
of our where we are.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where I think the dissonance for me comes in hand, because I can see this reasoning of how it allows us, especially as young, oppressed, queer people, to express our sexualities when our community doesn't want us to,
Right.
our sexuality. But there's a whole problematic side of it.
Right. Exactly. I think that catfishing, like you said, the problematic side comes to it. If you've ever seen catfish, there's obviously different types of catfish and different types of people. I think it really depends on the reasoning, how long it's been going on, the depth of these lies. Like a lot of these people, or sometimes on catfish, you'll see that people have been catfishing people for money. Like they're asking for $5,000 because their kid needs money, or I'm getting out of this predicament and I need this, and they could literally be manipulating you and taking money from you. Other people have kids and wives and families and are literally just doing this to be evil and to be terrible and to be rude. And like you were saying, the problematicness also comes from people lying to specifically fetishize or try and manipulate certain people that they're like kinky for, that they're trying to mess with. So just like you said, it's problematic. You were a child, but it's problematic to try and out straight people, right? To try to fake to do something, or to catfish to try and reel people in so that you can then expose them later on, which has happened so many times in queer culture, where someone find something out and then they expose them, or they're like, I need to, porn comes out, or they'll have a picture of someone doing something lewd with someone else.
Right here. Literally.
Period. Literally
I
in
was,
high school.
Yes, mine was, I was a little cam boy, and I started that, very young, around 14.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was in about 7th grade, and I had already had this man who, through me sending pictures to him and, being a dumb, like 14-year-old.
Yeah.
He got my information about all my social media, and he was able to find the connections between all of my different accounts,
Period.
like my personal accounts. And he was holding on to my pictures that I had sent him from like my private collection.
Yeah.
And he was going to out me to my parents if I didn't do certain things for him.
Period.
And me getting on at a certain time on a certain address to make sure like it was secure, that I couldn't do anything.
Right.
So I just knew at the same time, if I didn't do this, like he was also feeding his library boy he had on me. So just built and built and built.
Period.
But I had to deal with that until I finally was out of the closet, and he would come out of the blue like, hey, I'm gonna out you. And I'm like, I'm already gay, bitch. Goodbye.
Ah, gotcha.
Yeah.
Gotcha, bitch. No,
like
quite
laid
literally.
trap.
Yes.
But that happens, and a lot of people don't have the opportunity to like at least do what I did and just have to go through with it and just have it like in their mental capacity. But some people can't do that shit, and it destroys lives.
Yeah, no, quite literally. People, especially from being outed, there's just so many horrific and tragic stories of people who have been outed for whatever reason, whether it's a good reason or a bad reason or whatever. And, they end up leaving their entire families or killing themselves or wanting to do all these other sorts of things. And obviously these people who are being outed, or these people who are in the closet, these people who are closeted, are probably perpetuating, or sometimes do perpetuate, violence or fetishizing or weird kinks back onto the queer community. So it's kind of like, fuck you, get out of our face. Like, if you're going to fetishize us and use us for all this shit, like people, your wife might as well know that you're doing this. But just like you said, that doesn't really affect it. The only thing that really happens from that is like a cease and desist letter comes to your house, and it's going to be because from a richer person or someone who's trying to silence you. And if you're a sex worker who doesn't really have access to lawyers and doesn't get unemployment and isn't backed by the government and doesn't really have any rights in the situation, it's going to be really hard to get out of that. Just like you said, especially being young, being 14 and being manipulated, you're not going to know who's in the right and who's in the wrong. And catfish is, it can also be a term used against people, or what I like to call misogynists, who feel that women should look natural or they should look the way that they expect them to look when they wake up in the bed or whatever, in order for them to like feel like that's the real them. And that's something else as a queer person that I feel like I've been getting, or I feel like I've got a lot of energy from, which is people just because of their, like basically the girls present how the girls present. I personally can look like this one day and then look like a whole man the next.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter to me what I look like. That's just who I am. But the girls are pretty upset when they take you as one thing and then you end up to be something else. Especially with the whole top and bottom binary stupid thing. You know, people kind of assume what you are based off of the clothes you wear or how you talk or what you do. And then when it comes to sex, when you're trying to do whatever it is that you want to do, they want to act surprised because they've already assumed what it is that you want. So it's like having a fake persona is just hard to keep up with, number one, and hard to keep up with all the lies. And then number two, it's hard to then recognize when people are real personas, when people are not fake, when people are genuine and coming to you and these other sorts of things, because just like you said, you can't tell them, damn, this is a fake person. I really want you to talk to me. The voice that you're hearing, the text that you're seeing are really me. And that's what I want you to connect to. It's hard to then make that connection because you've already lost the trust.
For sure.
Yeah, or it's hard to have that trust. And I think catfishing has valid reasons, especially if you're in danger or if you're a dangerous, like if you, kind of like us, if you're 14 or 13, you know, on these pretty dangerous sites, like catfish away. Like literally go off. I'll send pictures of some, just like Meg said, send them a pic of somebody else's titties, period.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Send,
oh, hell yeah.
Mm-hmm. Make a lot of money off of that. Sending pictures or stories or things that you haven't done, making shit up, quite literally has made me a bunch of money. So I'm not saying that catfishing is all the way bad, but when it's used to manipulate other people or to get something out of someone else, and it's not you, you know, who's is the vulnerable population, just trying to get something out of some rich dude, or trying to get something out of anybody who you can get something off of, you know, it may or may not become a dangerous situation. Neve may not.
Nothing is like, you know, if you're going to be a scammer and you're going to scam and do that whole catfish for scamming, but you know, but in situations like you need to do, like, know when there's going to be a point in time where you're going to need to run.
Exactly.
You have to run.
Period. Exactly.
You have to grab the bag and then run. Yeah, exactly. You gotta mop the wallet. Period. But some people, that's when like the sociopaths, I swear, come into play when they just don't know that emotional boundary.
Mm-hmm.
And until Neve is at your doorstep.
Literally there.
And they're like, camera in face.
You've done this for 6-7 years. What's going on?
I'm Monica. I've been Monica for the last 14 years. Bitch.
I'm screaming. No, it's quite literally like these. And then once you get from being catfished and getting into these sort of circles of like being around people or being around profiles that are not real, which happens a lot, especially on these sugar baby apps. Like I would say most of the accounts are not real, and you really have to sift through the ones that are real and the ones who aren't just trying to get your bank account and scam you. You then get the people who are left are then the people who have these specific kinks or specific things that they want from you or things that they want to do to you or do with you, which obviously for each person is up to you and what you are willing and wanting to do. But it gets into these kind of like very violent, racist, misogynistic sorts of kinks that people start asking you for. Yes. Incestual. Exactly. Super incestual. And oh my gosh, I don't know what the fuck that shit is with the stepdaddy and the
biological
son.
Fathers, brothers.
Period.
Is lesbian porn like that? Does it do like sister stuff or mom and daughter?
Definitely stepsisters is like a huge thing. Stepmothers and stepdaughters, or like the mom and the daughter are sleeping together because like the dad like is asleep or something. I don't know, like these weird, very creepy situations that if it was really happening in the home, obviously would be very concerning. Like that, y'all shouldn't be fucking each other. What the fuck? Like what the hell? I don't know why the gays have attached to that. Obviously,
No, and they've also
traumatized.
attached to rape culture. There's so many different categories that refer to, like, strong bondage against will kind of,
Yeah.
uh, that's thematic throughout
Hmm.
several different categories. And it's kind of sick because we're also the people that are fighting against and fighting an anti-rape culture.
Right.
And
Exactly.
we're also perpetuating it through our own fantasy.
Yeah. And it gets into these weird sort of sex. Like I can't really find myself watching straight porn with black people because it's just a lot of like violence and just like thrusting and lots of pain towards the women and these like sort of over stereotypical sort of instances and the things that they say and wear and do. And while I love black culture and like being ghetto is like that thing, I'm down for it. It's just like really overplayed in porn. It's really fake. It's just you can tell that these people are being told to say these things, or are being portraying what someone is thinking is what black people have sex like, and then that just makes other people think that black people are supposed to be aggressive or supposed to be hypersexual or supposed to be all knowing
Itemized,
with
just
huge
like
dicks,
literally.
you know.
There are videos that literally just show black people, black men, just literally no speaking,
No,
just
no
stand there
speaking.
and just go like that, and this little white little twinkle crawl all over your body, and
Not the
it's
twink.
it's completely item, like, yeah, not even putting a personality with it, and I think that's even more disrespectful.
Exactly, literally, like the fact that the twink is there is obviously a problem. Like just leave the men there. That's all
Right?
I need to see. And number two, like just like you said, like that weird like 20 dudes on one small white twink, white ass gets
The
destroyed.
entire black football team against that one gay white
Yes.
cheerleader.
Oh my gosh. It is these weirdly like I said, things that really are sick in the head and really fucked up to think about happening to someone. And to think that people are making it seem like these people are enjoying these things. Like this huge, like you said, this instance of rape or this instance of sexual assault or this instance of molestation is really this moment of arousal. And
Mhm.
that's really not it, especially with some of these sites, mainly Pornhub and these other like XXTube and kind of curated porn sort of sites. There's a lot of like revenge porn on there and child porn, and teen porn and things that should not be accessible to everyone who has a computer. But unfortunately, a lot of that is on there, which is really scary. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I know major people say pushback comes from, oh, that's just commercialism speaking. That just shows like what the people think we want as a culture because we're obsessed with youth and those kind of characteristics as a society. But
Hmm.
it's like, yes, it also speaks to that, but that also is true. It comes from how our society thinks about things. So although we're always saying that this is bad stuff, it's still prevalent. It just shows how consistent it is it's still in our feed.
Yeah, it is something that not necessarily that we can't escape, but it's definitely something that is continuously perpetuated, just like you
Yeah.
said. And it's really disgusting and gross to have to know that you're a part of like this weird kink family or things that people, just like you said, like sometimes you can lean into that, like especially in some of my sex work I may lean into the whole like there's a lot of people who like buff black women, they like strong black women, they want a dominant black woman. And I lean into that because that's something I'm comfortable identifying as, and that's something I'm comfortable allowing other people to fetishize me for. Like you're gonna fetishize me because I'm strong, you're fetishizing me because I'm dominant, you're fetishizing me because I have a great body. Like if you're going to fetishize me and pay me, like these are what I'm agreeing to myself that I'll be able to do. But there's just certain things like white men wanting you to be called a slave, or them wanting to slap you or hit you or cause violence to you, or you need to do everything I say. Those are things I just can't do. I like that's just that crosses a line for me. That's a boundary. Um,
Yeah, and I think that connecting it back to our entire theme of online, sex work and us being able to do this online and giving us power through that perspective,
mhm,
we have ability to have that personification that we want to have, that persona online,
mhm,
that we want to have our kings seen as, strong,
yeah.
confident, beautiful. We're allowed to give ourselves that platform. And that moves into our next topic, which is kind of talking about the actions we can take to keep those people that are, calling us the things that, are that border for us,
Mm-hmm.
how to get them out of our work. And thank God, God, thank you,
Thank you,
universe.
Beyonce.
Yes. RuPaul. We have the ability to put blockades in their path, not get to us.
Yeah.
And that does mean something, but can you talk a little bit about monitoring and being able to block and reporting and the importance of doing that in the online world?
Right. If you are part of an online space, or if you are part of a kink community, I personally am a part of a lot of polyamorous communities because that's how I identify. And I like talking with and relating to other polyamorous people around the world, as well as like in my area and around America. And if there's somebody in the polyamory group that's doing some weird shit like me, I don't look for partners that are Black, I don't blah blah blah, then I'm going to say something to the group, number one, as a community, that we as polyamorous people can choose whether or not we accept this definition of polyamory, and are we going to. FYI, I'm not going to. And number two, what are we going to do about this? Like, are we going to let this person stay in the group, or are we going to let them keep chatting? Like, we need to go ahead and figure out what it is that we do with this person, because if you allow that one person to number one, be a part of the group, they then represent it, and then you allow them to go around saying that they're polyamorous and doing all this other sort of shit, and they're being racist and misogynistic and fetishizing people, it's just going to look bad on polyamorous people. And that's not necessarily anything that we can control. You can only control what you do. But you can take a stand against people. You can report them to the platform if maybe you don't want to talk to people within the group, or maybe you don't want to like come off as that person who wants to report people. Okay, you can report anonymously to the app and just try and get their profile taken down. But the only thing that may happen to that is they'll just make another one. Obviously, the second step would be to contact somebody about how dangerous it is. Maybe actually doing an email, or like I said, contacting somebody who's the head of the group. And I think the third sort of way, or a good thing to look out for just in general when you're dealing with abuse or threats or anything that comes up online, sort of like the situation that Jake was saying, is to have a really good support system, to call somebody that you trust and that you love, and to make sure that you're keeping yourself safe, and to make sure that you're keeping your area, the people that you love most, in your home, in your safe space.
Yeah, and I would add a 5 and just be like, also know how to hustle, be the hustler as much as you see the hustle.
Yeah.
Like, we talk about street smarts in the real world, but there's also like online cyber smarts.
Yeah.
And being able to identify these people that will keep on popping up and are coming at you and using these just horrible things. Like, also knowing just that all they are is just somebody behind the screen, that they have power, and we feel the tension of the power they kind of hold over us, especially if they have information.
Mm-hmm.
There's still just a moron on the other side of the screen, like literally just a stupid ass.
Right.
So, not letting that completely hinder you confidence.
Yeah, of course.
Knowing what you're doing is still like, a way to go around. You're just gonna, come across these things, and it's completely normal. The normalization of that as well, I think, will like stop these creeps from like doing what they do.
Yeah, if you're on Tinder, if you're on Grindr, if you're on something and somebody really makes you uncomfortable, go ahead and report them. Go ahead and let the community know, this person makes me uncomfortable. Y'all shouldn't be talking to this person. Watch out for this person. They may or may not be doing some work. Let the girls know, let your friends know. Watch out for this person if you're on Grindr. There's little things that you can do every day without having to make a huge stir about things, that can do little things to protect each other, to keep the community safe, and to keep the community responsible to and for one another as well. So.
Exactly. Yeah. And, we all have our intermingling, so the information can be spread.
Yes, of course. Enjoy, have casual sex, see what's going on, date, be celibate, do whatever you want to do. Because that's the best part about your body, is that it's yours. But always remain safe. Keep yourself in mind at all times to be number one. But let us know about y'all's experiences. Have any of y'all ever been on these apps? Grindr, Twitter, Tinder, Hinge, Lex, Her, all of the fucking apps, chat roulette, all of it. What are y'all some of y'all maybe best experiences, and also maybe some of your funny you would never believe experiences that you've had on that app. Let us know.
Yeah, let us know any way that's comfortable for you. You can send us videos, voice memos, text messages, emails, DMs. Let us know your perspective because we want to show what you have to bring to the world as well because it's equally as important as what we're trying to spread over here. Next week, we're going to still be going into depth of what sex applications are and the different socioeconomic ties we can pull from this and what it means to us as people, as queer people, but also society. So I was really excited about this. I think it was a really good first episode. I think it's a really cool topic, especially with we have Rona here keeping it current. You know, this industry is right there for a lot of us. We've been able to touch other people, and we got to go outside. Like we've had to go to other methods to get this very natural occurring thing for us.
Yes, period. And there's so many more topics that can be shaved off from just this one that we've talked about today. Because texting is just one form of communication that you can have on the app. There's so many different types, and I can't wait to dive into them every week.
Yeah, so tune in next week. Thank you so much for being here. Love you guys, and talk soon.
Yes, stay thirsty. Bye, friends.
And cut, scene, get over it. Lights, camera, everybody out, get your paycheck.
I'm screaming.